Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bill Ocheing here from Kenya. We will be handling AE 103. I'll be standing in for Dr. Namahombe. He's currently feeling unwell. So I'll take you through the course. So last week we had some political discussion on promotional mix. I mean the marketing mix, where we went in detail the four P's. Okay, what I mean by 4 P's, like production, promotional mix. You have the place mix, price, as well as Now for today's class, we'll go into details on international trade, where we'll start by defining what international trade is, because one of the apart from the social impact that this course is having on us in regards to knowledge, as well as exposure, one of the reasons why we are taking for this particular course is that we can produce much of the agricultural products and export them to Germany, right? Now we must understand in which criteria we're going to use in regards to export. We must really understand the international market, the rules and regulations set by international market, so that we don't go against the state regulations. Okay, so that's why this course, this subtopic is very important to us, for us to understand what international market really is. Okay, now we're going to start by defining international trade. What do you understand by the term international trade? Okay, so basically is undertaking or exchange transaction across national borders. Okay, where one of the features that occurs in international trade is it occurs between sovereign states, for instance, which has their own kind of policy. Okay, now for instance, if we're exporting a product from Kenya to Zambia, Zambia has their own set of policy, and Kenya has their own set of policy. So your product must really take in place, or must regard the policy set by particular state. Okay. So for a trade to take place, the two countries might try to harmonize, or rather negotiate on how to undertake that particular trade exchange. Okay. For the benefit of the citizens that coexist within the two countries. Okay. So I will just move on to theories of international trade. Now, the second subtopic is about the theories of international trade and also assumptions that comes in international trade. What are the assumptions that people assume that they coexist in international trade? Okay, so the assumption on neutrality of money, okay, is a new term. So what is the term neutrality of money? What's this particular assumption? Okay, this is where that all real variables of the economic system are characterized by independence of monetary system, okay, or are determined by independence of monetary system. I hope you understand that. Basically, what this means that the variable that coexists between economic system is the independence of monetary system. Okay. Then assumption also occurs on pricing, where that prices are freely flexible, that determined by or determined or under conditions of perfect competition, and therefore this assumption postulates absence of minimum wage, minimum wage or maximum rent. Okay, it postulates that there is no fixed price for commodities or non-monopolistic imperfections. Okay, so that's on a price assumptions. Okay, we talk about non-monopolistic imperfection. Basically, what it means is that the power of monopoly does not coexist between two trading nations. Okay, there's assumption that there's no monopoly. Okay, in regards to pricing. Okay. Then on the demand sides, on production and demand, I'll start with the production side. where there's assumption that total amount of factor production is fixed for any one country. Okay. Now, the production assumption also puts in regard the elastic supply curve. Okay, that production is characterized by elastic supply curve. Okay. I wish I did introductory course on marketing. We could now juggle about the terms that comes along with international trade. I hope your previous lecture you were able to cover things like elastic supply curve, demand curve. Okay, but I just mentioned. Now on demand side, there are several assumptions that are made on demand side, such as like fast and 3% are given. Okay. Then also the income distribution pattern is also given over given country. When two countries are engaging in trade, it's assumed that the income distribution pattern between those two nations are given or are stipulated by the two countries. Okay. Then there's also assumption that on demand side that there are not barriers to trade, either in form of transportation, communication, or other others. Okay. Hope I'm not that fast. Let me check if I'm fast. So those are the key assumptions. The other assumption on neutrality of money. We have assumption on prices. We have assumption on the demand side, and assumption on the production side. Okay. Then I just move to the theories of international trade. Okay. What are the theories of international trade? So there are 6 theories here. Okay. We have the theory of comparative advantage. We have Ocheing theory, international product cycle theory, and last we have new theory. So we'll go into detail each theory, what it basically entails, so that we can have a broad understanding of what, for instance, we start with mercantilism theory. Okay, for this class, you'll have to bear with me. You have to write your own notes because it is much of based on understanding how you understand the concepts. Okay, so we'll start with the mercantilism theory. Now, mercantilism theory basically dwells on the assumption that a nation wealth depends on accumulated treasure, mainly in form of gold or rather silver. So basically, as mercantilism assumes that what drives a nation or drives economy or what a country holds as wealth is in form of gold. Okay. It also holds that a nation should have a trade surplus. Okay, where the trade surplus concept and export more and import less. Okay, that's the mercantilism theory. The first assumption is that a nation wealth is held mainly in form of accumulated treasure. Like for instance, you have gold, silver, among others. Okay. Then another factor is that there should be trade surplus, where a country or a nation export more and import what and import less. Okay. Then also it's also said that a country, a nation will export more even if it means subsidizing. What do I mean by subsidies? Subsidies is like when the government issues incentives in form of, like for instance, tax holiday, that's subsidizing production. When you lower the cost production for the people who produce a particular nation, then you offer subsidies particular. Like for instance, in farming, for instance, when the government now lowers the price of seedlings or provide free fertilizers, that's called subsidies. Okay, so mercantilism recognizes that a country should maximize on export even if it means subsidizing. Okay, where I have mentioned the subsidies can be form of quotas or tariffs. Okay. Now, about the flaws or the weakness of mercantilism theory is that high restriction is likely to lead to impaired growth. Okay, so that's the biggest flaws of mercantilism theory. That high restriction, and it's likely to lead to impaired growth. Okay, hope you're fine. Sorry, we just continue. Now we'll move to the Adam Smith theory. Okay. So Adam Smith theory was published in the Wealth of Nation in the year 1776. The very old theory. Now the theory dwells on or theory of absolute advantage. Okay. So it was published in 1776 in the book of Wealth of Nation, and it dwells much on the absolute advantage. Now, Adam Smith theory states that basically a country can produce more of a given type of product from the same amount of input than other countries. Okay. Now, according to the theory of comparative advantage or the absolute advantage, Adam Smith argued that a country should only produce goods which are efficient, and then those goods that are not efficient in producing, they should rather import them. Okay. For instance, I can give an example within Zambia and Congo. Okay. If Zambia has a comparative advantage in producing, for instance, let me say cotton, okay, they have a comparative advantage producing cotton. It means the level of the production cost is a bit lower in Zambia in production of cotton as compared to production cost in Congo, for instance. Okay, again, the production cost in Congo production cotton is a bit high as compared to production cost in Zambia. Now these two countries can now kind of cooperate in regards to export, where Zambia focuses on production of cotton, and then imports products from Congo that is low in production cost. Okay. Okay. I think I've mentioned comparative advantage. I just repeat Adam Smith. It's like I've confused the two a bit, but I just pardon Adam Smith theory. Okay. So the Adam Smith theory is also known as absolute advantage, where a given country can produce more of a given type of product from the same amount of input than another country. Okay. It's like the source of raw materials in kind of surplus. Okay. While the theory of comparative advantage is when a country now produces at bare minimum. Okay. I hope you can get the difference. Now, the theory of absolute advantage, or the Smith theory, it kind of destroys the mercantilism way of reasoning, because basically it shows that there are gains to be made by both parties. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we'll just move on. If you have a question in regards to the theory, you'll just ask them at the end of the lecture, and I'll be able to answer any question in regards to in detail if they need a kind of broad understanding. Okay. So let's move to Ocheing theory. There's one I didn't mention here. It's called the return role theory. I think it's not that significant to our lecture. Okay. Okay, we'll move to Ocheing theory, where Ocheing, this theory was developed in 1919, but improved by students in 1933. They're all in now, okay? Ocheing are two different people. Now, the Ocheing developed the theory in 1919, but the theory was a bit improved by students in 1933. Now, the theory is based on factor endowment model, sometimes referred as factor proportion theory. Now it basically it holds that a country will export goods that intensively than factors which are locally abundant. Okay. Now, what basically this means, a country will now dwell on production of those particular product in surplus if the factors of production are in an inadequate supply or an abundant. Okay. Now that's the theory of Ocheing theory. Now it's also said that a country will therefore import goods that will be produced using scarce resources and export those goods that they produce using the abundant resources. Now two main factors of production are considered here. You have capital and labor. Okay. Capital and labor. For instance, an example can be given between I was reading something between India and the US, where India was kind of importing labor-intensive products to US, and the US was importing capital-intensive products to India. So that's an example that's about the Ocheing theory. Okay. Okay. Now, therefore, this particular trade therefore stipulates that patterns of trade will be determined by different factors, factor endowment, other than productivity. Okay, it doesn't dwell in productivity aspect, the output that is being generated, but it dwells on the factor that contributes to the output. Okay, and we have capital and labor as the main factor endowment, the main factor of production, or factor endowment models. Okay. Now we'll move to the next one. That's the fifth one. It's called the international product cycle. Now, what this means, it was put forward or rather developed by an economist. It's called the Venom. It's called a Venom in 1966. Okay, so Venom is person developed internal product cycle, which holds that a company, this is very simple. A company will begin by exporting its products to a latter, then take direct foreign investment as the products move through its life cycle. Basically, what this basically entails is that when a country starts exporting, for instance, I'm exporting sugar to Congo. I'm from Kenya, exporting sugar to Congo, right? Now, the product starts developing in Congo. Okay, I start to kind of the market size starts developing. Now, I make foreign investment in Congo and establish a company in Congo that produces the same amount of what? That produces the same sugar, but to meet the local demand. Okay. It kind of now limits the aspect of export. But now the foreign country, the company exporting makes direct foreign investment in the country they're exporting it. Okay. Now, what this implies that as a product basically matures in the country, both in regards to location, I mean in regards to volume of sales and production change. Okay, this will basically affect the volume or direction and flow of imports and also exports. Okay. Now, one of the limitation of the flaws or weakness of international product cycle it is that the globalization aspect. Globalization is basically when you go global. For the word globalization, when you do something go global, it means it goes one way, right? Now, globalization and economic integration makes this theory less valid. Okay, because today, in today's world, as it was sometimes back. Okay. Now, this theory also, or this particular concept is more appropriate for technology-based products. Okay. The another one limitation also is much relevant to product produced through production concept. Okay. Or rather mass probe. Okay. Then last we'll tackle the new trade theory, which was developed by Charles Warthill. He observed that some industries are characterized by high fixed cost production. Okay, so this theory was developed by Charles, and he observed that some industries are basically characterized by high fixed cost of production, and also that specialization increases output. Okay, and ability to enhance economies of scale. Okay, when a company specializes in one single aspect of production, then that the level of output is going to increase, and that's true. Okay, when somebody, like yesterday we said, entrepreneurship should show commitment in their should have that a trait of commitment. Okay, where commitment comes in regards to self-discipline, where you should be committed to what you do. It should be in line with the vision of the company, and when you have solid plans for your business to grow, you don't divert your attention to other aspect of doing business. Okay, and once you have specialized in one kind of system production, it means the sales volume, the ultimate sales volume will be high. Okay. Now the only problem with the new trade theory, it kind of characterized by highlighting effect. You know, when somebody is more consistent in one aspect of production, the level of experience kind of grows, right? Now, when the level of experience grows, it means this person want to outdo the competitors, and that's going to create a monopolistic market in nature. Okay. When there's the aspect of monopolistic market, it means there's need for government regulations. Okay. And such industries will either pre-include or exclude new interests due to high fixed cost. Okay, high fixed cost of production. Like for instance, if such run for instance, there's a hypothesis behind hydroponic farming that the cost of setting up hydroponic unit is very high. Okay, so the guys who are kind of running hydroponic farms are kind of in monopolistic in nature, because of the set capital, the set fixed cost of capital that's required for that farm to start keep running. Okay, so that particular concept borrows much of the new trade theory concept. Okay. Now this theory also may suffer from globalization and technology advances. Okay. Now, economists generally argue that when such scenario occur within an economy or within a particular industry, then there's much high need of the government to basically intervene and develop strategic trade policies. Okay, to regulate the monopolistic market, because monopolistic markets are always characterized by high prices. Like they really inflate the pricing because they know they control the market. Okay. Okay, I think that's well understood. We'll just move to our next subtopic, that is gains from trade. Okay, so gains from trade, basically what it means, after you engage yourself in trade between two countries. For instance, you're going to engage yourself between Kenya and German, right? Now, if you engage yourself to trade between Kenya and German, there must be gains from that particular kind of engagement. Okay. Okay. There's one theory that I didn't mention. I'm just figuring out now. Maybe I can just give a brief discussion about it. It's called the national competitive advantage. Before we move to gains from trade, let's talk about the seventh theory here. It's called the national comparative advantage, developed by the Michael Porter's model. Okay, I wish I could show this what I mean by this in a blackboard, but I'll just explain. Okay, this was developed by Michael Porter. It's called the Michael demand model, where he studied 100 industries in 10 nations, and he had the intention basically trying to determine reasons why some industries, some nations appear to be more successful in a particular industry. Okay, so Michael Porter's demand model, or rather the national comparative advantage theory, is when Michael studied a number of industries, has given a number 100 industries in 10 nations, basically to understand why certain industries or certain firms or certain companies do well than others. Okay. Now it was able to determine and describe determinants of nation comparative advantage. Okay. And another demand model, Michael Porter's model, he developed like 4 major attributes of why a given nation may have high performing industries as compared to other nations. Okay, and one of them they kind of correlates. One was company strategy, structure, and rivalry. Okay, the company structure in regards to like strategies that the company is employing to expand or grow their business, and the level of rivalry between a particular nation. Okay, the second factor was the demand condition, the demand of particular product within a particular setting, within a particular region. Okay, then another concept was coming around related and supporting industries. Okay, where for instance, if I'm having a company specializing in production of, for instance, coffee, then the companies that I'm related to, or I'm kind of having close doing the same stuff, kind of conjoin with each other and support one another for the ultimate the ultimate goal can either be profit or rather social impact. Okay. Another one was factor conditions. Factor condition, we talked about factor condition, like factor endowment model, where the factors of production like land, you have labor, capital. Those factor conditions really contributes to the growth of a particular company. Okay. The last two we have, I mean, last but not least, we have the government. The government also plays a role in development of a particular company or particular firm. Okay. So the government, like government policies, like the tax implications, I mean taxation, like political stability in the country, the general business environment. Okay. Yeah. Now the only good thing about the Michael Porter's model or demand model, it's kind of consistent with the patterns of trade that are in the real world, and it is true. You find that a country or an economy like the economy of US or the economy of Congo or the economy of Zambia or Kenya, they kind of differ. There's a high level of disparity in regards to performance. Okay, so that's why Michael Model's theory kind of looks real, because it is something that is actual. It's not something that is fake. Okay, it's not that it's insinuations. It's something that out of reality. Okay. Okay, we'll now move to gains from trade. Now, gains from trade, I've said gains of trade are those the benefits that arises from trade. Okay, what are the benefits that comes along with trade? Okay. Now trade presents a more it kind of okay. Somebody is asking a question here. Okay. Just continue. Oh, gains from trade now. Okay. Now, as I was saying, gains from trade are just basically benefits that occur as a result of trade between two nations. Okay. So trade basically is a process of acquiring goods at smaller expenditure of domestic resources. Okay. That process of acquiring goods services from a different nation or from an individual or from a given locality is called what? Trade. Okay. Now, sources of gains of trade can either be static or dynamic. Okay. Now, once countries engage in international trade, they kind of tend to specialize in industries that produce the goods for export. That's kind of the static aspect. Now, sources, like, let me just repeat that. Now, sources of gains of trade, I've said sources can either be dynamic or static. What I mean static is when a country specializes or engage itself in trading, it kind of specializes in one aspect of production, okay, and or they specialize in a particular industry that produce goods for export. Like for instance, which example can I give? Kenya is best known for export of coffee. They are specialized in coffee production and also as well as tea. Okay. Now each country will specialize in its own method of or its own industry that they feel is exporting much or exporting products of value. Okay. Now dynamic is basically associated with productivity gains. Okay, which comes about by the ability to increase export. Okay. Now there are two mechanisms through which trading partners benefit from international trade, and the first one is called the vent surplus argument. Okay, and also productivity gain mechanism. So there are two mechanisms through which trading partners or other countries benefit from international trade. Okay, so we start with the first one, the vent for surplus argument. Now it argues that or it implies that as trade basically opens up, the trading partners are able to exploit and use domestic sources once external markets are assured. Okay. I'll just repeat. It implies that as trade basically opens up, the trading partners, or rather the countries that are engaging in trade, are able to exploit and use domestic resources once external markets are assured. Okay. Now, once a country has acquired a market, for instance, we're exporting products to Germany. Okay. Now, if Congo, Kenya, and Zambia are going to start the aspect of exporting the products, the organic grown products from each location to Germany, it means they have a shared market in Germany. Now that will mean the level of exportation of domestic products within the locations of within these three countries we're going to be what? They're going to be high. Okay, because of their shared market. Okay, that's well understood. Now we move to the second one. That's called productivity gain mechanism, where trade basically opens up the economy or economies interacting with basically foreigners. Basically, this start of will be foreign exchange, for instance. Okay. Now when basically when interact with the foreigner, there will be high level of exchange of what? Of technology to transfer from one country to another. Okay. where for instance we're going to engage much with Germany, it means much technology that are being embraced in German will be exchanged between the three countries, where Kenya will be sharing in what kind of technology they got, as well as German or Congo or Zambia also transferring particular technology. Okay, and that's a benefit from trade. Okay. Now, through the two mechanism, trading countries are basically able to grow and develop. Okay. Now, as well as they're also able to escape from the confines of local sources and acquire cheap exports. Okay, where the theory you mentioned, the theory of comparative advantage, where we said a country will only dwell in the Hello. I'm very sorry. I lost my connection. But I'm back. Okay.
Vierger Paul, on allait tant comme mère pour la première fois. Vous allez produire. Ça, c'est la première.
Okay. Let's just continue from where we have stopped. We were at gains from trade. I'm very sorry for that inconvenience, but we just continue. Okay. So gain from trade, as I was saying, gains from trade basically means the benefits that arise from interaction between two countries in regards to trade. Okay. Now, what we mean by trade is basically the process of acquiring goods and services as smaller expenditure of the domestic resources. When a country, for instance, acquires products from a given foreign country, in exchange will be money, for instance. That's called what? Trade. Okay. Now, the source of gains for trade. Okay. Now, source of gain can be both static and dynamic. Okay. Now, we'll talk about static. As I explained earlier, it means that a country, once a country has started exporting, or a country has secured a market from a particular nation, and I'll give an example of us securing a market from Germany, for instance, right? Now, once you have secured a market from Germany, it means we now start specializing in production, on industries that produce goods for export. So that aspect of specializing is what we call the static aspect. Okay. Then the source of gain of trade is dynamic. Okay. Now dynamic basically it means productivity gain, which occurs when by ability of a country to increase export. Okay. So there are two sources of gains, which sources of gains from trade, either static or dynamic. Okay. Now, through the two mechanisms of static and dynamic, becomes about the benefits that comes along with what? The trade. And the first benefit is called the vent for surplus argument. Okay. Now, we'll talk about the vent for surplus argument. Implies that as trade basically opens up between two nations, now the trading partners are able to exploit and use domestic resources once external market are assured. Okay. For instance, if you're going to produce, let me say, fruiting vegetables, like tomatoes, plum tomatoes, or cherry tomato, or rather capsicum, coriander, these type of things like that. If you're going to produce, if I want to produce things like that to export to Germany, we'll, for instance, exploit the natural resources that we got to produce more of the product, since the market is what? Is assured. Okay. Now we'll move to second argument. That's called productivity gain mechanism. Now, productivity gain mechanism basically means trade basically opens up what? Economies and interaction between the two foreigners, or interaction between the two countries will result into technology transfer, for instance. Okay, where one country will be transferring technology to another particular country. Okay. Now, through the two mechanisms of mechanism between trading nation, countries are able to grow and develop. So that's the first point in regard to benefits of international trade. The first one is a country is being able to grow and do it and develop. Okay. Now another thing also, a country is able to escape from the confines of local resources and acquire cheap imports. Okay. And now I'll correlate it with the theory of comparative advantage. You said that a country will dwell much on the products that it has comparative advantage to produce at the expense of products that it has less comparative advantage to do what? To produce. Okay, where a country is specialized in production of a particular product, that the cost of production is a bit what? Is a bit low. Okay, I think that is well understood. Another benefit is that through trade, consumers are able to get a wider selection of what? Of goods. Okay, because there are different varieties that comes in regards to even quality, the shape, the size, okay, the quantity. Okay, now consumers have the capability to decide which product to watch or which farm to buy from. Okay. Now, through trade as well, one of the gains will be a nation will be able to access a wider market. Okay, that's creating more of what? More of employment, and also acquire more foreign exchange to develop other activities. Okay. Now, we'll move to our next subtopic. A lot of questions here. Now we'll move to our second, our next subtopic here, which basically means the Parrish-Singer hypothesis. Okay, it's a bit of linguist term, but a very simple one in regards to explanation. Okay. Now, the Parrish-Singer, or rather, hypothesis or theory, basically what it means that the value of a commodity exported by developing countries, for instance, Kenya is a developing country, Congo is a developing country, Zambia as well as a developing country. The value of commodities exported by developing countries relative to commodities exported by developed countries. You know, German machines, they export like high quality vehicles to African countries. Now, the theory kind of correlates the two. Now, it's a very good example. Now, the value of commodity exported by developing countries relative to commodities exported by developed countries has been depleting. Okay, or rather declining over time. Okay, and the result sometimes even worsening. Okay. Now, Parrish-Singer hypothesis basically said that the value of a commodity exported by developing countries relative to commodities exported by developed countries has been declining or kind of lowering over time and even worsening. Okay. Now, the 4 factors that influence worsening terms of trade over time. What are these 4 factors that basically increase that particular state of worsening state? Okay, and one of the factors that is low income, elasticity of what? Of demand for raw materials and primary products. Okay. Now, low income, exchange of demand for raw and primary product. Okay, that dominates bulk of export by developing countries. A good example is if a country like for instance, let me say Kenya exporting coffee to German, and German in other terms exporting like a vehicle like just saloon car to Kenya at a given figure, like let me say 1.2 million Kenyan shillings, then German first to export coffee to that amount is going to take a huge bulk of what? A huge bulk of resources, like a huge bulk of production. Okay, to correlate the two, the bulk that are going to export to meet the same amount of export German is taking to Kenya is very high. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why trade have been worsening over time is low income, elasticity of demand for raw and primary primary products. That basically dominates. We pay more raw materials, dominates the African, the developing countries market. Okay. Now, another second point is basically the discovery of synthetic materials. Okay, discovery of synthetic materials and the use of raw materials. Okay, now the discovery of synthetic materials will now replace the use of raw materials like leather, for instance. Okay, now countries like in Africa basically dwell in production of leather products as one of the raw materials. Now, if you discover the synthetic material, it means you're doing a replacement of the basic commodity being produced by developing country, which means the level of trade will automatically decline. Okay. Another third point. Now, the diminishing return in agricultural and limited material resources. Okay, diminishing return means declining return, like low returns in agri and natural resources. That basically experience in most of developed countries. Okay. The fourth one, and lastly, is limited technological progress. Okay, in manufacturing and mostly basically in developed countries. Okay. Now, the limited technical progress in most developing countries has also resulted into or has influenced the worsening in terms of trade over time between developed and developing countries. Okay, that's well understood. The Prebisch-Singer hypothesis. Okay. Now, we'll move to regulation of international trade. Okay. Now, before you engage trade between two countries, there are stipulated rules, rather, that clearly guide the two nations that are involved in particular in a trade, for instance. Okay. Now, the importance of having a structured international trade was basically recognized towards the end of World War II. Okay, is when countries started to recognize the importance of having a well-organized and structured international trade, so that they could harmoniously conduct business. Okay. Now, the United Nations, that's called the UN, was basically was established in 1945, basically to enhance free international trade. You know, World War II ended in 1945, and that's when the year UN was established to enhance free national trade. Now, through that, the nation agreed to form a body on the called General Agreements on Tariff and Trade. That will guide on the trade. Okay, through the WHO, the nation, after forming the WHO, the nation agreed on a framework called it's called the GATT, General Agreement on Tariff and Trade. That will act as a guidance, okay, on aspects related to to trade. Okay. Now, this framework basically became like a pseudo organization in 1947. Okay. Let us continue. Now, in 1986, 1984, oh yeah. Now, sorry again, I just lost my connection presenting the slide. Somebody just called me up, so if I want to reconnect. Okay, we just continue. Now, I was talking about the 1986, 1994 Uruguay Round Trade Association. Okay. Now, during the Uruguay Round Association, now it's an international trade. During this particular association, trade in agriculture was the main point of what discussion. Okay. Now, there are two important outcomes related to agriculture that were most significant to the agricultural production. They decided that agriculture should be included in International Trade Association, okay, and formally established the World Trade Organization, okay. That was established 1994, WTO, okay. Now, GATT was basically proposed in 1947. And WTO was established in 1994. Okay. Now the kind of is around it basically means like let me call it a meeting between countries between 1986 1994 to determine what kind of aspect they're going to watch. They're going to carry themselves forward in regards to trade. All right. Now, we'll just move forward. Now, there were issues of trade regulations before formation of the UN. Trade was basically through mainly bilateral agreement. Prior to World War II, trade was basically practiced between countries as just an agreement between two nations. Okay. After World War, countries basically agreed to form international trade regulations, or rather organization, okay, to guide on trade. All right. Okay. Just check my connection if okay. So we continue. All right. Now, the next slide. The basic framework of GATT. The GATT was formed in 1947 after the World War. You know, first they formed the United Nations, then they formed GATT. GATT, as you had said, basically just to show you what GATT means here. Sorry. Now, GATT basically what it means is general agreement on tariff and trade. That's what we mean by GATT. General agreement on tariff and trade. Okay. Now we'll talk about the basic framework of what? Of GATT. Okay. As you have mentioned, before formation of UN, that was 1945. Before 1945, I mean the years prior, before World War II, end of World War II, trade was mainly through bilateral agreement. Now, after World War II, after World War, basically countries agreed to form international trade regulation or organization. All right. Now, there are certain basic frameworks of GATT, General Agreement on Tariff and what? And Trade, which was basically formed in 1947, just 2 years after formation of the United Nations. Okay. Now, 1994, you remember the Uruguay round, where from 1986 1994, where they formed one of the articles of commission of WTO, World Trade Organization. Okay. Now, since January 1994, the international trade has been regulated by WTO, whose protocols were basically derived from the principle of GATT. What I mean by GATT is General Agreement on Trade, on Tariffs and what? And Trade. Now, the decision to replace GATT with WTO and the discipline and general. Sorry. Now, the decision basically to replace GATT with WTO, I mean the World Trade Organization, and to discipline national agricultural trade, meaning trade in agricultural products was to be included in multilateral trading system. Okay. Now that led to formation of Agreement on Agriculture, AOA. Okay. Now there are certain basic principles that were adopted in regards to WHO replacing GATT. Okay. Now these are the principles. First one was called the most favored nation clause. Then we have tariffs should be only a means of protecting industries. Then no direct subsidies to industries. Now, for all this basic principle, we go into detail between which means we'll go into detail in broad discussion, one after the other, what they basically entail, okay, and how relevant they are to today's trade. Okay. Let's start with the first one. The principle of most favored nation clause. What does it mean? Now, it basically means it implies that whenever one nation grants to another country in terms of trade conversions must be extended to another country, okay, who's a member of the multilateral trading organization. Okay, so I hope you understand. It basically means that whenever one nation grants another country in terms of trade, in terms of trade concerns, then that same grant must be extended to any other nations who's a member of the multilateral organization. Okay. It also that reduction in trade barriers should be on a non-discriminatory basis. Okay. There should be reduction in discrimination in regards to trade. All right. So that's the most favored nation clause. Okay. When a country engages one other country in regards to trade or export, then the same grants should be also given to another country that is a member of multilateral organization or association. Okay. Basically WTO, World Trade Organization. Okay. If one country grants like a market to another particular country, then that same country must also extend that same gratitude to another country. Okay. Then also it also discriminates reduction. It discriminates. I mean, it also discriminates trade barriers, or rather reduction in trade barriers. Okay. Then also the second one is tariffs should be the only means protecting industries. Okay. What does this mean? That the countries that are engaging in trade should really avoid non-tariff barriers. Okay. Now, the tariff barriers are kind of difficult to quantify, but a country is supposed to assess the level of non-tariff barriers in one's country and trafficate them. Okay. The third one is no direct subsidies to industries. Okay. Now, if one country is subsidizing the products, like for instance, let me give an example in Kenya. Okay. I'm the government now. I'm controlling the system. Then now the government of Kenya decides to subsidize the production of sugar industry, where they offer like free seeds, fertilizer, you know, they even provide like they remove the previous tax holidays and removal of taxation on the farmers. Now that will lead to dumping of cheap goods in the national market, where those influx of those cheap goods result into it will affect the pricing of particular country, and this really has affected the growth of certain nations, where you get like for instance you're exporting sugar or you're exporting like maize to a particular country. The maize has gone under a lot of subsidies, like for instance the donation like fertilizer, free fertilizer from the government, free seeds from the government. Then that will lead to the other country will suffer from if they produce the same maize product, then it affects the overall pricing in a particular country. Okay. So that should be limited. No direct subsidies to industries. Okay. Now, number 4, basically it means consultation should be held between nations before taking any unilateral action that can cause injury to trading partners. Now, this can basically lead to reaction by other partners negatively. Okay, they can retaliate. Okay. Then the last one is about compensation. Now, compensation should be sought if a unilateral action by any nation causes injury to another nation. Okay. Now, this is basically a legal binding agreement between WTO. Compensation should be sought if a unilateral action by one nation causes injury to another nation, basically by adopting the legal agreement within the WTO, World Trade Organization. Okay. Now, for today, we're going to stop there, and our next topic will be the AO framework and AO implementation, because of the level of understanding may be low in regards to the detail. This lecture is very detailed, so we'll just stop there for today. I'll give 30 minutes for question and answer session, where every party will be given a chance to answer or ask questions. Okay. Sikuwa na share. The screen was on because I didn't share the screen. I'll just do a recap of this so you can understand what we're talking about. Okay. There's a little bit about connection here, connection problems. So just start from here. I'll move a little bit fast because of time. Okay. Now we have gains from trade, where we said the vent surplus and productivity gain mechanism. But I just moved to Prebisch-Schinger hypothesis. Now, by definition, Prebisch-Schinger hypothesis basically means that the value of a commodities exported by developing countries relative to commodities exported by developed countries has been declining, okay, or worsening over time, okay. Now, the 4 factors that are influencing worsening of terms of trade over time, okay. The first factor is called low income elasticity of demand for low raw materials and primary products that dominates the bulk of exports by developing country. Okay. Now, developing country are always exporting raw materials to developed nations, for instance. Okay. I've said I'll just do a recap of these. The people raising the hand on the chat box. I'll do a recap of what we talked about. Okay. Now, the Prebisch-Schinger model. Okay. I've said is basically what it means, that the value of commodities exported by developing countries relative to commodities exported by the developed countries has been declining, or rather worsening over time. Okay. Let's share my screen. Okay, let's continue. Now, there are 4 factors that are influencing the worsening in terms of what? Of trade. And the first factor I've talked about is low income elasticity of demand for raw materials and pricing products that dominate the bulk of export by the developing countries. Now, for instance, if a country, developing country is exporting a products to, like they want to export products from here to Germany, we are exporting products in form of raw materials, okay? Now, there's low levels of income. There's low levels of elasticity. Basically means the elasticity, the responsiveness to income increase is a bit what? It's a bit low in developing in regards to raw materials. Okay. The level of income acquired or attained when you export raw materials is basically low as compared to when you export a value added what? Product. Okay. Another one is on discovery of the second factor is discovery of synthetic materials, okay, and use of raw materials because of innovation. You know, developing countries are discovering synthetic materials, and this basically is replacing the use of leather, for instance, leather products. Okay, when a country eliminates use of leather, it basically means one trading country that was exporting leather to a particular nation will have no trading what? Partners. Okay. Another one is diminishing return in agricultural resources that are characterized production and resource-based for most developing countries. So the diminishing returns in agricultural exports, okay, has also contributed to worsening terms of what? Terms of trade over time. Okay. What I mean by diminishing returns is mean declining returns, low rate of returns of agricultural what? Agricultural products. Then the last one is limited technical progress of manufactured products in most developed countries. Okay. When there's limited progress in technology in most developing countries, it means that advanced technology by the developed nation will now eliminate the conventional way of doing things. Hence, the terms of trade will kind of decline. Okay. Then you have regulation of international trade. Now, prior to World War II, trade was basically conducted through bilateral agreements between two nations. Now, after end of World War II, countries recognized having a structured national trade among them. Okay, and through this, the United Nations was established in 1945 to enhance free trade, for instance. Okay. Now, the nation basically never agreed to form a body, but in 1994 they agreed to form WTO, World Trade Organization. Okay, and based on the World Trade Organization, they adopted certain principle from General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, called the GATT. Okay, now this principle basically will now guide on the aspect of what? Trade between these particular nations. Okay. Now, in 1986, 1994, there was a Uruguay Round Trade Association, and out of that particular, let me call it a meeting, agriculture issues of international agriculture were kind of discussed. Okay. Now, there were two main important outcomes from the Uruguay Round Trade Association, where the first one was inclusion of agriculture in international trade association. Okay. And the second one was basically to formally establish World Trade Organization, WTO. Okay, WTO, remember, was established in 1994. Okay, through the Uruguay Round Trade Association. Okay. Now remember GATT, General Agreements on Trade, was basically proposed in 1947. Is when GATT was proposed. Okay. Now, issues of trade regulation. Now, before formation of UN, United Nations, trade was mainly through bilateral agreement. Okay. Now, after World War, countries agreed to form a kind of organization. Okay, in regards to trade. Now, the basic framework of GATT that was formed in 1944 before the formation of WTO. Okay. Now, since January 1994, the international trade has been regulated by World Trade Organization, whose protocols basically they drive the protocols from GATT. What I mean by GATT is General Agreement on Tariff and Trade. Okay. Now, WTO derives its principle from GATT. Okay. Now, the decision to replace GATT with WTO basically was to include agricultural products into international market. Okay, where now the agri products what now be included in the trading multilateral trading system. Okay, then there was also agreement on agriculture known as AOA. AOA also was inclusive now of WTO. Okay. Now, when WTO was established, it kind of included the AOO. AOO basically means agreement on agriculture. Okay. Now, the 5 principles that still guides the material trade association, that still guides WTO. Okay, that are basically borrowed from GATT. The GATT proposed and developed in 1947. Now, there's a certain principle that were guiding GATT that were basically borrowed by WTO in today's trading. Okay. Now, the principle are 5 in number. We have the most favors nation clause. Okay. Talk about the most most favors nation clause. Basically, what it means is that whenever a nation grants, whenever one nation grants to another, the Simama imekufa. Imekufa. Let me just share my screen. Just hold on, I'm sharing my screen in a minute.